What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined once again by Anthony Witrado from Forbes, who covers Major League Baseball. And we're here to talk about the Dodgers shortstop situation, Anthony. And we know they've got a permanent, for now, solution in Mookie Betts at short and Gavin Lux at second. We're going to talk about a couple trade targets in a little bit, but I'm just curious for you. The dust has settled a little bit over the last few days with the Mookie Betts decision. Has your view on the timing of that decision or the validity of that decision changed now that you've had some time to reflect?
The validity has not. I think it was a move that was probably wise, given the regular season's coming up, and they wanted to have a decision and have somebody there permanently for
Yeah.
now. Um, and I think that they were just not entirely confident in what Gavin Lux was going to be able to do there.
Yeah.
In thinking about it more, and in thinking about potential, because as a Mookie Betts fan, and as somebody who follows the Dodgers very closely and who grew up a Dodger fan, I don't want him there long term.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason they moved him to second base in the first place, like we talked about the other night, was so that it would take some of the wear and tear off of his body.
Yeah.
And putting him at short basically brings all that back.
Yeah.
And probably and then some. I think shortstop is probably a little bit more demanding physically and mentally,
Yeah.
than right field, and definitely more than second base. So I don't want your $365 million guy playing there full time, considering he wasn't signed as a shortstop to be their shortstop, right? And so the more I think about this, from a trade side of it, I really feel like if they go that route, they have to basically say goodbye to Gavin Lux.
Yeah. Because there's just not, like, if they go and give up the capital to acquire a guy like Willy Adames, a guy like Ha-Seong Kim, whoever it might be, what's the long-term plan with
Right.
Mookie Betts and with Gavin Lux, unless it's Mookie Betts back to the outfield, which I suppose is kind of on the table, but it doesn't seem like that's what they're going to plan their future around. So my question for you before we get into the potential trade candidates is, in your estimation, if you were in charge, if Andrew Friedman came to you and said, should we pursue a deal now, or should we wait 3 or 4 months, get closer to the deadline, and then pull the trigger on something? What would you say?
I think you wait and you play this out a little bit. Now, this is obviously not being in that closed door room or in Andrew Friedman's head,
Yeah.
because if they really have lost all confidence in Gavin Lux,
Yeah.
which I don't think they have, in terms as a guy who is part of their long-term future,
Yeah.
then I think that, if they haven't done that yet, then you wait, you hold
Yeah.
off, you wait, you see how this all sort of starts to play out. They may have, and I know we shut the door on this, and they may have, mostly shut it also, but in terms of Gavin Lux being a shortstop at some point,
Yeah.
but you never know. Injuries happen, and circumstances that are unexpected kind of come up, and he may end up back there, maybe not full time, but we may see innings from Gavin Lux back at shortstop this summer. So I think right now, I would say let's hold off. And if the price for Willy Adames is going to be, just higher than anyone is comfortable with for a
Yeah.
1-year rental, whose weighted runs created plus is on the decline, it seems like, then I think you hold off on making that kind of call.
Yeah. And now let's move forward. Let's say the Dodgers have decided, hey, we don't want Mookie Betts this year long term. We're emphasizing the for now part with Mookie Betts at shortstop, Gavin Lux at second base. And there's a couple names out there. And one of the things we want to do in this video is look at the two guys that have at least been brought up in conversations. I'm not saying like there's smoke on either of these. Adames, the Dodgers have been connected to. Ha-Seong Kim is more so a name that hasn't been directly connected to the Dodgers, but has been made available, it seems like, in trade talks. And so let's look at the two profiles and then talk about why you and me tend to fall more on the side of Ha-Seong Kim. So first up, we've got Willy Adames, and you can see sort of the StatCast numbers here. If you're unfamiliar, red is good, gray is mediocre, blue is bad. This is his 2023 page, and you can see barrel rate, good, walk rate, good, defense, elite, The rest of it, not very good. You mentioned his weighted runs created plus. It was below average last year. 94 weighted runs created plus for him. That number has gone down for 3 consecutive times. So 126 4 years ago, 120, 109, and then 94 last year. The thing you get with him is the home runs. 24 home runs, had 31 the year before. So the profile here is high power, a lot of swing and miss, does get some walks, average speed. From a contract perspective with Willy Adames, he's 28 years old, 12.25 million this year. He's a free agent the year after that. The second person we're talking about here is Ha-Seong Kim, and nobody's going to sugarcoat it. The baseball savant page here is not a whole lot better. 7th percentile exit velocity, 3rd percentile hard hit rate. Where he has some red is chase, whiff, strikeout rate, walk rate, defense also elite, and then sprint speed. 112 what weighted runs created plus last year. 8 wins above replacement the last 2 years, basically a tie between Adames and Kim in those categories. Also 28 years old. 17 home runs last year, so that was a career high. You can see the projection or the progression: 8 homers, 11 homers, 17. But again, the profile here, not a lot of solid contact, but he doesn't strike out, he doesn't whiff, he walks a lot, and speed is a key differentiator here. 38 stolen bases for Ha-Seong Kim. Does win the Gold Glove as a utility guy last year. $7 million contract for this year, so a little bit cheaper. And again, expected to opt out in 2025. So the reason we're comparing these two, Anthony, is because in a lot of ways, the profile is similar. Both of them incredible defensively, both of them on the verge of being free agents, both of them 28 years old. There's a lot of similarities between these two. And I'll put one more disclaimer out, Anthony, before handing it back over to you. I know what we're going to hear already. The Padres would never trade with the Dodgers. Why are we talking about this? That's possible. The Dodgers and Padres have made trades. Most recently, Matt Beatty getting sent there for River Ryan. That might be why the Padres never trade with the Dodgers ever again, because of how that one played out. But I think it's, if the Padres get to a place where they are desperate and they're about to lose this guy for nothing except for maybe a comp pick if they want to make a qualifying offer to him, I think that the Dodgers could be somebody is AJ Preller kind of crazy enough to say, hey, I think I can get one over on Andrew Friedman. If this is the best deal, then I don't really care about trading this guy in the division. So let's just assume it's feasible. Again, I prefaced this and kind of gave the answer out at the beginning. You and I lean more on the Ha-Seong Kim side than Willy Adames. So talk to me a little bit about what gives him the edge over Adames.
Yeah, I feel like Kim is on the way up in terms of an offensive player as his major league experience increases.
Yeah.
Adames, and there are arguments, that can be made about some of Adames's underlying numbers and that they may not be as bad as some of it looks, but it does feel like he's a hitter on the decline. And I'm not a big fan of those whiff rates and chase rates. He walks a decent amount, but he's also prone to get out of the zone and get a little erratic with this swing. I think, which is part of the reason why you see some high power numbers, but low batting average numbers and some not so great on base kind of numbers. So I think that when you compare the two, for me, Kim profiles much better in this kind of lineup that the Dodgers currently have. I don't think it's necessarily you compare these guys in a vacuum 1-to-1. Right. I think you have to consider what you already have and what they're coming into. And when I look at those things, I tend to think that Kim is the better fit. They're both outstanding defensively, right? So I think they're a wash there. But I think with the kind of hitters that are around both of these players, who would be around both of these kinds of players, I think Kim profiles better in this lineup. And then I think it just seems like a safer bet that he's going to maintain sort of where he's at offensively for, let's call it the next 3 to 5 years than Adames does. Because I think if you're the Dodgers and you are deciding that you're moving off of Lux at shortstop and you're moving off of Lux probably permanently if you make one of these kinds of deals, because what this does is moves Mookie back to second essentially, right?
Yeah. Then
you're going to have to say, this is the guy we're going to try to commit to for longer term, maybe not long term in terms of 6 or 7 years, but in the next 2, 3, 4, something like that. And so this guy has to be a fit during that window, which is essentially your championship window, right? You're getting Mookie in his prime still. Shohei in his prime still, and Freddie Freeman in his prime still, and you also a guy like Muncy, right? And Will Smith, who's kind of probably just at the start of his. A guy who has to be able to profile with those guys in that window, and I think Kim does that a little bit better than Adames does.
Yeah, what's interesting is when I've had this debate, and we've got another video coming tomorrow, I believe, where Blake Williams and Scott Gearman are going to make the argument in favor of Willy Adames, which will be great. So make sure you check that out. The argument that I think where Blake and I have kind of, as we've debated this, come to sort of a pass, if you will, is how much value do you place in what we just saw? Willy Adames last year was a below average offensive player. I know the home run numbers, all of that. Whereas Ha-Seong Kim had his best offensive year, 112 weighted runs created plus. So if you want to make the pro Adames argument, it's, hey, last year was a fluke for Ha-Seong Kim. The rest of his numbers weren't that good. And, oh, Adames, it was a fluke how bad he was last year, batting average on balls in play, that kind of thing. I tend to be the person, like if I just saw a 12-month sample size, I'm going to place more value in that than what I saw 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. And if we're making it just based off of that, I think last year Kim was much better. If you want to look at the last 2 years, I think it's pretty much a wash. The caveat being both these guys are great defensively. You can make a case while the profiles are different offensively, they're maybe equally valuable. One guy sacrifices power, but at the benefit of some more on base batting average type stuff. The Kim speed piece is the thing that I feel like hasn't gotten mentioned in this conversation. Like the reason his batting average on ball and play was higher, it was in part because he has elite speed, 83rd percentile in base running value, 38 stolen bases for him. And so again, fit in the Dodgers lineup. If we're talking about a guy who's probably hitting down towards the 7, 8, 9 spot in a Dodgers lineup, can you imagine a guy with the speed of Ha-Seong Kim batting 8th or batting 9th for the Dodgers with a little bat to ball skills, the ability to get on base, the ability to steal bags right in front of Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and Freddie Freeman? To me, that feels like, because Max Muncy exists as kind of the high power, high strikeout guy, I know he gets on base, kind of a guy for the Dodgers, and they've got some of those profiles. Chris Taylor is a little bit of that profile as well. I just think if I'm willing to say the offense is a push, which to me, I think it's close. Defensively, I'd say it's a push. The speed for Ha-Seong Kim sort of feels like a little bit of the tiebreaker to me.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think other things to consider too are the division that Adames played in versus the division that Kim plays in.
Okay.
And to that consideration, the ballparks as well. His home ballpark is Petco. And Adames's home ballpark is a jet stream in Milwaukee, whatever they're calling it now. It's not Miller Park anymore, but it was when I covered the Brewers as a beat writer. Great American Family Ballpark or something like that. But you get the ball in the air there, and you're going to have some good fortune. And the Brewers have built teams in that sense, in that light. And so, if you want to say, well, Adames's 24 homers or whatever it was, really, those play up and they mean a little more to me than a really bad batting average or bad batted ball numbers. What does that look like in Dodger Stadium?
Yeah.
Because we kind of already can project what Kim looks like because he's playing in a pitcher's ballpark in San Diego. And so, those aren't necessarily game changers, but when things are this close between two guys and you're looking at a guy who you may potentially want to bring in, little things like that are going to be taken into consideration also.
Yeah, and Savant has a tool. I was trying to look it up real quick. I think both guys would have a downturn in their power if they came to Dodger Stadium. Like I think Adames's number goes down to the low 20s. Kim is kind of in the 14-ish range, I believe. And so both guys would have that. There would be an impact on that. But again, I think where I land, Anthony, as we just kind of wrap this up, what I've said on our shows before is both of these guys would clearly be an upgrade over what the Dodgers currently have. Like, I don't think anybody is arguing against that. And if they are, I would say that's kind of a crazy argument. I think the anti-trade argument is a Willy Adames upgrade over Miguel Rojas, let's say, or Gavin Lux, who can't field but still can hit. Like, is the price of that upgrade, let's say you're upgrading from a C plus to a B plus, like, is paying for that one letter grade increase worth the price? Because even, as I look at Ha-Seong Kim, I imagine the price tag on these guys, because we're having the debate, would be pretty similar. And when there were rumors about Kim possibly being moved, the Padres beat writer over at The Athletic basically said the Padres have set a high asking price in their conversations. As one team official said just before the winter meetings, any potential return for Kim would need to be, quote, way above the line. So despite the fact that they're an impending free agent, the price is not going to be inexpensive on these types of players. And so that's why I'm hesitant. Like, I want to see Gavin Lux play this out. And if the defense is as bad as worst case scenario, then let's go make a move. But that's the only reason I'm kind of hesitant. It is not because I don't think these guys are both better than what they have in Miguel Rojas or Gavin Lux. It's just the gap between those two options for me doesn't feel massively substantial, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And, you know, part of this is also understanding, and this is difficult right now because it's so murky, but what Gavin Lux is and what he could potentially be for this club. And, you know, if you make one of these trades, like I said, I just do not see a path where they keep Gavin Lux in the organization, whether it's within this trade or it's somewhere else. And, you know, and maybe they go, hey, you know, Willy Adames and Devin Williams, you know, and what's this cost us? You know, is Gavin Lux and that kind of deal. But assuming everything's one for one, ish, you know, you're moving off of Lux long term and out of the organization. And, you know, you talk about, you know, the people who may be in favor of Adames, and, you know, this is like, you know, 6 in one hand and half a dozen in the other a little bit. But, you know, we're talking preferences here. You're saying that you think Adames's offense is probably better or at least equal to Gavin Lux's. And I don't know if that's the case. I mean, Gavin Lux is a really good offensive talent. And if he continues to progress and tick up, he is, you know, we said this the other day. I said it the other day. He is a potential all-star kind of offensive player. Especially if he's going to play second base. Now, you know, obviously what does that do with Mookie long-term? You know, all of those questions play into this, but, you know, to say that we want to make a move and we want to make it as soon as possible means Gavin Lux is gone and you've given up on him. And I don't know that the Dodgers are ready to do that. And I don't know if Dodger fans should be willing to make that call just now. That's why I say, let's hold off and let's wait and let's play this out a little bit more.
Last time we saw Gavin Lux, 3.0 wins above replacement. 2023, Willy Adames, 3.4 wins above replacement. So the number, that number can be helpful because it takes things that seem hard to combine into one place to compare like for like, and it makes it doable if you like wins above replacement. So that takes away the eye test of, man, but the defense is so bad, or man, but the swing and miss is so bad. And it quantifies it all and it throws it into a number. And it just goes to show you that Gavin Lux playing second base was 0.4 wins above replacement lower than Willy Adames was last year. Now, Willy Adames was 4.6 the year before. That's a huge gap. That's 1.6 wins above replacement. So which version are we getting of Gavin Lux? Which version are we getting of Willy Adames? And you could even make the case, which version of Ha-Seong Kim are we getting? Is it the 2022 version? Is it 2023? Or is it possible that 2024 is an even better version? So I'd love to hear from people in the comments below. Ha-Seong Kim, Willy Adames, or stand pat. Where do you land on that debate? Anthony and I are in lockstep that we would wait. We would be patient here. But if having to choose between those two, our preference would be Ha-Seong Kim. Let us know in the comments below if you agree. That is Anthony Witrado. You can find him at @Witrado on social media. Of course, check out Dodger Blue 1958 and DodgerBlue.com for all the latest. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. And as always, go Dodgers.